We're just 3 days away from Championship Sunday in the NFL. The day kicks off in the AFC as the Pats head to Denver for a matchup with one of the best defenses in the league. We'll be talking about both these games a lot today. But new on NFL Live, Pats head coach Mike Vrabel was asked about that Broncos defense today.
I mean, he's targeted infrequently. He's physical. He is great length, can run. He's athletic. He's willing to run. He's athletic. He's willing to tackle. He plays physical. You have to really be convicted when you're going to go and throw at him. You better be very convicted, and there better be a good route, and you better have the ball in a good spot, or it's going to be a turnover.
As you heard and see on your screen, Vrabel was referencing Patrick Surtain. Patrick Surtain and company have been the class of the field this season, allowing the fewest yards per play and the lowest red zone touchdown percentage in the NFL. They also had 68 sacks in the regular season, 11 more than any other team. That's what Drake May and company are going to be up against. As we welcome you in on this Thursday, one of our favorite days of the week. Dan, Peter, J-Mac here. We'll get to Adam Schefter in just a little bit. But Dan, is there a weakness in that Denver defense that the Patriots might be able to exploit Sunday? They've been solid throughout, but is there something they can do?
Yeah, they'll blow coverages. I've seen it throughout the course of the season. I think, number one, if you use motion in your run game, just because of their eyes and their man coverage, you can get gashes. But more if you get in those bunches in the pass game, they will drop people. Buffalo exposed it, and so have many other teams in the run game. Here comes the motion. You hand the ball off. Look at all the defenders that are left up top. They've got 4. Buffalo only has 3. Somebody is out of position in that situation, but it's been even more so in the pass game. Motion down to a bunch. Look at the communication from a defensive perspective. Nobody is covering the receiver as he comes back. And then you go later in the game, and this is a missed throw by Josh Allen. This is just traditional bunch. There's not even a motion to it. This is a blown coverage. 100% nobody running with the defender, the receiver going to the corner route. But this is something that I have talked about with this Denver defense all season long. You get into motion and you get into bunch sets 2 or 3 times a game, they will blow that coverage. You got to hit it when it's there.
So true, and I think watching that game and those examples you just showed, the James Cook run, in the first quarter, they had a very similar run that was exactly the same in motion. Then that one came later in the game. There was no adjustment to it, the bunch route. You saw one with them coming in motion and come back, they score a touchdown. Then you come right back. So I think that's the level of concern, is that these things have been hurting you throughout the course of the season, and then they're hurting you in the beginning of the game and in the end. You got to get on the sideline and correct those things and have good eyes.
There's so much conversation in this game around Jarrett Stidham getting the start, but how about the Pats offense? Peter, is there a spot on that side that has you concerned at all?
Yeah, look, you watch SportsCenter in the morning after these 2 games, you're like, oh, wow, what a play to Hunter Henry that Drake May made, or the deep pass and the one-handed catch. That was incredible. Drake May has fumbled the ball 6 times in 2 games, and 4 of those they've lost, and 4 of them came against the Texans. And that is a real concern. Ball security is real. Now, look, I get it. Khalil Mack and Will Anderson are 2 of the best pass rushers in the league. They're going to get you here and there. Nick Bonito is pretty good, too. And if Will Campbell does not recover on the 3-yard line on one of those last week, we might be talking about the Houston Texans playing in the AFC Championship game. This ball security issue with Drake May was not a big deal all season. It has sprung its head up the last 2 weeks. Denver's front is very good, and he's got to protect the ball. It's been something that Patriots fans will tell you. It's kind of a deep breath every time he goes back to pass. Sometimes you get the highlight. The other time it's, why is he fumbling again?
Yeah, for Vance Joseph, the Denver Broncos defensive coordinator, you're looking at his offensive line, and you're going to attack the left side of that line, starting with Will Campbell at that left tackle spot. You talked about the 6 fumbles. They also have given up 10 sacks in the 2 playoff games in which they have played. And a lot of it has to do with not being able to block on one-on-one situations between the 2 rookies on that side when people are running games. And then also for Will Campbell, you mentioned his name. Nick Bonito has one of the best get-offs in the NFL. Trying to contain him. He had a sack fumble against Josh Allen. That is going to be the thing for the New England Patriots. Drake May can be unbelievable. If he doesn't have enough time, it doesn't matter.
Josh McDaniels got to help him a little bit more.
Absolutely.
Help Will Campbell more.
We'll talk about exactly how he can do that, because I'm interested in that for sure. It's not that Campbell's not talented. He's just young, right? And this is a tough task. Let's go to Miami next, where the new head coach, Jeff Hafley, and GM John Eric Sullivan, hello, ding, ding, ding. The elevator is ready to go, addressing the media for the first time since being hired. Hafley, a defensive guy, was asked how he planned to rebuild the offense. Listen to this.
I need to hire an offensive coordinator. And there's certain core beliefs that I really do believe in like running the ball and being really physical up front. So when they know we're going to run the ball, we're still going to run it well. That's going to be huge for me. And then we need to build it around the quarterback. And you have to surround that quarterback with weapons. The O-line, the wideouts, the backs, so it's not all him.
And obviously that's a huge question looming over the organization. I'd be naive to think that everybody doesn't understand that. I have a lot of respect for Tua. He's a good football player. He's accomplished a lot in this league. I think whether it's Tua or anybody else, it's unfair and irresponsible for me to sit up here and talk about anything specific before I've talked to the player himself. Quarterback is the most important position in professional sports. You know, I also think it's the most dependent. These guys heard me say this in the interview process.
All right, we can't be the only ones that think those two resemble each other. We're going to table that momentarily. But Adam, joining us now, with the head coach and GM now in place who may be related, how should we expect them to handle the quarterback position in Miami?
Well, Laura, you hear sometimes that married couples begin to look like each other, and Jeff Hafley and John Eric Sullivan were together in Green Bay there the last couple of years. It looks like they've begun to look like each other a little bit, and now they're certainly going to be thinking like each other, especially when it comes to the quarterback position. You heard John Eric Sullivan, the new Dolphins general manager there, be non-committal to Tua Tagovailoa. They obviously wanted to speak with him before they make any public pronouncements, but there's a feeling around the league that has persisted that Tua Tagovailoa has played his last down in Miami. And the only question now is how and when the team moves on for him, whether the Dolphins want to swallow one $99 million dead cap hit in one whole foul swoop, or whether they want to spread it out to 2 years. And that's a decision that the two former Packers employees will have to come to. But the biggest challenge that group is going to have is finding a quarterback, especially in the division where Buffalo has Josh Allen, where the New England Patriots have Drake May, and where the New York Jets have like 9 number 1 draft picks over the next few years.
It's not a super quarterback-rich draft either, so not necessarily thinking they'll go there, although we'll keep an eye on that. But the Dolphins offseason just getting started, you guys. Miami needs to clear $27 million just to reach the 2026 salary cap. They do have the 11th overall pick I was just talking about in this year's draft after picking 13th last year. Some notable free agents to keep an eye on: Darren Waller, 3 defensive starters too, Jack Jones, Rasul Douglas, and Ashton Davis. So, J-Mac, how should Miami handle this quarterback position in your mind?
It's tough. When you watched the way last year unfolded and Mike McDaniels moved on, you think about it for Tua Tagovailoa. His best years in the NFL came with McDaniel calling plays and the weapons that they formed around him. You're hitting reset now. You're trying to rebuild. You're trying to start anew. Tua's already said that would be dope to get a brand new start elsewhere. I think they do move on from Tua. I think that would be the correct move for not only Tua, but for the organization as well. And you start to figure out exactly what that looks like. You go back a few years ago for the Denver Broncos. Sean Payton comes in. He has a year with Russ, and they move on from him. There's a lot of dead cap space, and all of those numbers, you figure out a way to make them work. They end up drafting Bo Nix, and they're getting ready to play in the conference championship game this weekend.
It's not tough. Rip the Band-Aid off. This is a full rebuild.
Yeah.
Tua wants a new place. Go play somewhere else and see if you can become a starter in the NFL again. This is not going to be a 1 or 2 year fix in Miami. This is a place that you have to rebuild on both sides of the line of scrimmage before we're ever talking about who the quarterback of the future is in Miami. Tua and Tua's future is going to be determined about how he goes about his business. If you're Jeff Hafley, you have to sit back and say, we're not capable of winning football games this coming season at the level that I was brought here to. Move on from Tua, get as much as you can for him right now if you're capable of doing that, and start your rebuild. Truthfully, the Dolphins' future and their quarterback is way more about 2027 and beyond than it is 2026. No Band-Aids.
That's not exactly what Dolphins fans want to hear, but I hear you. Peter, the Dolphins, 1 of 4 jobs already filled. There's still 6 jobs left open. I mean, this coaching cycle's been crazy. Take us through some of your reporting. Let's start with the Jags OC, Grant Udinski.
Grant Udinski's 30 years old, does not call plays.
Hot name.
And yet he's a hot name. He's already in Cleveland right now. He's interviewing for them tomorrow in person, and he'll meet with Cleveland ownership. And, of course, GM Andrew Berry, 30 years old. And you'd think, okay, well, that's a big swing for Cleveland. And also report that he will head down to South Florida over the weekend, where he will interview for the Bills head coaching job. 30-year-old Grant Udinski. Could that be the next Josh Allen head coach? Then there's Davis Webb. Now, The Bills and the Raiders are still in the mix here. I say they're still in the mix for the Bills. It hasn't been announced if they're going to interview him or not. The truth matters, he can't meet in person. He can't interview with them until the Denver Broncos season is completed. He was Josh Allen's backup for 3 years. He's a dear friend of Josh Allen's, but I'm told the Raiders might very much still be involved for Davis Webb. The another two guys that are still coaching and cannot interview in person until their season is done, both Chris Shula and Nate Schillhouse will be involved in the Ravens and Steelers head coach mix. Schillhouse might be even some more. We will see how the Buffalo thing plays out here. Keep an eye on Shula in Baltimore. Everyone's saying they think Minter to Baltimore. Keep an eye on Shula to Baltimore. Just put that somewhere in your back pocket.
Okay.
And there's Anthony Weaver. He can interview everywhere he wants. The season's been done since the end of the season, and yet still in the mix to be a defensive coordinator a lot of places. But I could tell you the Steelers had a really good first Zoom meeting with Anthony Weaver. High energy guy, former coach, young defensive head coach. I'm just putting it out there. I'm not reporting that he's getting the job. Steelers had a very nice meeting with Anthony Weaver.
Sign me up for
the
Weaver
Steelers head coaching job.
Sign me up. I am a huge Weaver guy. I always see and look at coaches and say, almost like quarterbacks, do you take a bad roster and make them like competent? Or do you take a good roster and give us the chance to win a championship? I think he was a part of a lesser talented roster in Miami.
Would agree.
They fought every single week and played at a good level. Sign me up for that in Pittsburgh.
And that's why that job is so interesting, because you have an Anthony Weaver. They've also interviewed Brian Flores, two guys. You remember when Flo first got to Minnesota, how bad that defense was the year before. And instantly when he got there, he made it better with the players. I would agree with Weaver, too.
Mike McCarthy had a really good in-person interview yesterday. We'll see how that goes, but obviously Mike's been out of football for a year.
It feels like they're trending toward a defensive head coach there, which is something to keep an eye on with the way that offense has struggled. But we're just getting started on NFL Live. A lot to get to today, and glad you're with us. The Seahawks hosting the Rams in the NFC Championship. Dan and J-Mac go into the touchscreen. They're going to talk about how the Seahawks defense could make or break Seattle's Super Bowl hopes. They call themselves the dark side. Not Dan and J-Mac, but the defense. All right, plus, the Buffalo Bills press conference was supposed to calm things down. It only created more questions. We're going to dig into the fallout, why Peter thinks Josh Allen needs to be involved in that head coach. Okay, just a wild Bills press conference on Wednesday. We talked a lot about it yesterday, and it continues to be weird. Adam, what has the reaction been around the league?
Well, Laura, our editors and producers did a great job of editing down Buffalo Bills owner Terry Pegula. It would have been nice if he had edited himself down and done the exact same thing that our editors just did, to where he said simply, we've hit a proverbial playoff wall and felt like we needed to make a change. That would have been a great statement. That would have been appropriate. It would have been relevant. It would have been right. Instead, there was all the other accoutrements that came along with it that got people in trouble, that showed up people. He needed an editor like we have here on NFL Live to boil down his statements into the most succinct, accurate parts. He was missing an editor yesterday.
Yeah, what do you think, Peter?
You know, I thought the Keon Coleman quote made a lot of news and everyone lost their minds online, and we could discuss that later. I also thought there was some insight into what they're going to do moving forward. Take a listen to what they said when the reporters asked if Josh Allen had anything to do with Sean McDermott's dismissal.
The starting quarterback will be part of the team to help select a new coach. He's going to be working with us, and anything else, his feelings, I want to keep that private.
All right, that leads me to the next few weeks. You know, today Brian Daboll interviewed for the Buffalo Bills head coaching job. Lou Anarumo is going to interview. We said that Grant Udinski is going to interview. We've heard a lot of different names that are going to interview. Josh Allen is going to play a major role in not only consulting, but selecting the next head coach of the Buffalo Bills. That could lead to a Pandora's box, or it could be, this is the face of our franchise, and the window is only yay big. We want him to have input. I don't know if this happens in the NFL as much as we're going to see here. Usually it's the player empowerment era in the NBA, but I give kudos to the Bills here in saying, this is the face of the franchise. If we're hiring an ex-head coach and it's his career, let's give him some input.
It changed largely because Josh Allen's been unable to advance to a Super Bowl. And he's won an MVP, and he might just be the single best player in the league if they were not factoring in his opinion and his thoughts, they would be making a mistake. So they should be welcoming and asking what he thinks, and that should be part of the equation. Josh Allen shouldn't be making the decision, but he should be contributing in this group format to where they can come up with the best decision possible. One of the issues the Buffalo Bills are now up against due to the NFL rules and the timing of when they made the change is this. If they want to talk to Clint Kubiak on the Seattle side, or they want to talk to Chris Shula, Nate Scheelhaus, or Mike LaFleur on the Rams side, whichever team wins on Sunday, they cannot talk to that coach until after the Super Bowl. So they have to wait another 2+ weeks to even interview that person because they missed the initial window that would allow them to talk to those coaches next week. They can't do that. So the winners of both teams this weekend almost automatically disqualify themselves from the Bills' head coaching job if Buffalo even would consider them. And there are certainly some qualified coaches coaching this weekend. You brought up Davis Webb. If the Broncos happen to win on Sunday, they cannot talk to Davis Webb until Monday, February 9th. Wow. Now, they could do that. They could wait that long, but that's an awful long time to wait to talk to a guy when you don't even know that he'll want the job, commit to your job, and you'll have to get together a staff for your job. So it's a difficult situation that they're in. And there are some great candidates now. They had Brian Daboll and Lou Anarumo today. They'll have Anthony Weaver tomorrow. They'll have Anthony Lynn Saturday. They'll have Grant Udinski Sunday. They can talk to a lot of people. But the coaches who are involved in the playoffs are going to have some limitations about which ones can talk to Buffalo and when they can speak to the Bills.
Real quick on Davis Webb for the viewers at home. Not only was he in that quarterback room with Josh Allen, not only is he Josh Allen's friend, but this is a guy who would also run the quarterback meetings 3 times a week in Buffalo, his final season there before going to the Giants and coaching. I'll note this. I've got this from Bill sources. His friendship with Josh Allen will not be looked at as a detriment in this interview process. They are going to open their eyes, and if he can interview, as Adam said, if they win, he can't until February 9th, but they're not going to hold that against him and say, well, that's off the board because of their friendship.
Yeah, Adam, I'm glad you brought that point up with the timeline here. I'm not sure people realize that those guys that are going to potentially be coaching in the Super Bowl would not be available to be interviewed by some of these teams, so a window missed. Let's get back to Sunday's NFC Championship matchup as the Rams head to Seattle for the 3rd meeting of the season between these two teams. A lot of familiarity there, as you might imagine. The Seattle defense keeps getting better, especially when pressuring the quarterback, coming off a season-high 50% pressure rate in that 49ers blowout. Matthew Stafford's only thrown 1 pick this season when pressured, and that was in the wild card at the Panthers. Dan, what does that Seahawks defense do that makes life just so difficult for a quarterback?
Yeah, obviously, the 4-man rush is one of their staples, but it's also their overload pressures. Now, I thought it'd be interesting for everyone to understand at home kind of what the overload pressure is, and then how an offense and a quarterback try to see it and attack it. So when it comes to the overload pressure, Seattle likes to do what we call 4 off a side. It doesn't matter what 4. It could be linebackers. It could be defensive backs. It doesn't matter. Now, this time you're going to get linebacker and corner. That is a specialty of theirs. They have secondary people that can pressure. Now, when they get their 4 off a side, think of a clock, okay? You're going to get this rotation that happens, meaning this player is going to drop down to here. This player is going to rotate over the top. That corner is going to drop back, and that corner is going to drop back. So you're going to get this kind of what we know is that umbrella circle. Now, from an offensive perspective, there's 2 ways to deal with it, J-Mac. We often talk about throwing into the blitz or throwing away from the blitz. If you watch teams that play against Seattle, if you throw into the blitz, you're dead. Yeah. Because the people pressuring, the drop down, you can have some success throwing away from it. Why, from a defensive perspective, do you guys teach me how when you're dropping to the side of the pressure, defenders think?
There's so many variables, and a lot of it goes back to the film study and just numbers-wise. For Matthew Stafford, when you're going against an offense, where does the quarterback like to throw the ball? Does he like to throw the ball to the field when he gets pressure? Does he like to throw the ball into the boundary? For the offensive line, how are they setting their protection? If you go back to the very start of this, you talked about them overloading a side. When you first look at this picture, which side are they overloading? They don't give you anything pre-snap to determine whether we're going to bring 4 of this side or 4 of that side. So once they come here, if I'm up here, this is Kobe Bryant. He's rotating here. he's going to have vision on the quarterback.
But when you're rotating down and the pressure's coming from that side, are you more aggressive?
I'm coming aggressive because you just talked about it. The one thing quarterbacks like to do, I've heard him say it many a times, throw the ball into the pressure. If a secondary player is coming at you, throw it right behind him. So that's why you're seeing Kobe Bryant roll up right now, and he's coming with vision on Matthew Stafford. He's coming downhill, ready to break on something. Reason why? Julian Love, the safety back here, is rotating over the half to get to that half of the field, knowing that his corner back here, he's not just running out of here. He's running out of here because he's responsible for the deep half of the field.
Okay, so you're telling me down to the pressure side, more aggressive. Talk to me about the guys that are dropping out away from that blitz. Are you guys overly aggressive depth? Or are you kind of playing with a little bit of vision to try to steal a pick?
The biggest variable is the guy right here. And the reason why is in order to get home and isolate some of these offensive linemen and confuse them, sometimes you're dropping a guy from the line of scrimmage. He's not going to be as good as a DB, as a Nicky Manwari or one of those guys. So his responsibility is he has to cover up the flat. The issue is now the Rams have sent somebody vertical. So now you have two to a side. So for Job right here, he's trying to midpoint both of them, but he's faster than him. So this is the point, Matthew Stafford being the veteran, understanding the coverage, knowing who he wants to attack.
Huge part of this game is the Rams and Matthew Stafford figuring out where that overload pressure is going to come from, and then having a good option opposite the pressure, because you got to have the good pass concept away from it to truly hurt it.
I want a sound effect for the fist pump.
What would it be?
A little quiet there.
What would it be?
All right, but listen, you guys, this music means only one thing. It's time for Peter Schrager's Most Interesting Man, and we're not revealing.
Welcome back to the NFL Live Lounge. The most interesting man in the NFL this week is Broncos head coach Sean Payton. Sean Payton is now just 2 wins away from being the first coach in NFL history to win a Super Bowl ring with 2 different franchises. And as tangible as that may seem, the task would be a lot less challenging if he had Bo Nix as his starting quarterback this weekend. Instead, it's his backup, Jarrett Stidham, or Stiddy, as he's so affectionately referred to in Denver. Stidham will make his first start of the season on Sunday, the latest an NFL quarterback has ever made a start, his first one since Roger Staubach did it in the 1972 NFC Championship game. When Stidham takes the field on Sunday, it will be 749 days since his last NFL pass. 31 other coaches, I'd have my doubts. But Sean Payton, the man was kind of built for these moments, built for adversity, built for the challenge. In his New York Times best-selling autobiography titled The Home Team, chapter 26 is called Crisis Time. Sean Payton's been through quite a bit of those. After winning a Lombardi in his 4th year in the Big Easy, Payton has been on the other end of the Beastquake run, which eliminated his team in the wild card round. He's been suspended by the league for an entire season. He's been eliminated in the final seconds of a playoff game in Candlestick Park where Alex Smith hit Vernon Davis. He's been eliminated by the Minneapolis Miracle in the playoffs. He was eliminated in overtime of an NFC Championship game at home that we now know as the Nicole Roby-Coleman game. And oh yeah, he's been eliminated by Tom Brady and the Buccaneers despite being favored at home in the Superdome in the divisional round. You compare all of that and having to play a beloved backup quarterback, that's nothing. Look, Payton, he's won with Teddy Bridgewater, went 5-0 with him as his starter in 2019. He's won with Jameis Winston. He's won with Taysom Hill. It's also easier when you truly believe in the guy. And Sean Payton truly believes in Jarrett Stidham. Stidham was the first free agent signing of the Sean Payton era in Denver back in 2023. He's not just a backup there either. Stiddy has been a valuable and important piece to this entire rebuild. Been there the entire time, from Russell Wilson to Bo Nix to his moment. Sean Payton's entire career has been building for this very moment. The master motivator, the offensive genius. Here's one more test before getting to the Super Bowl for the first time in 16 years. It's crisis time. And that's where Sean Payton is at his very best. Win this one, And we may need to add yet another chapter to that best-selling book. Let's go.
Ooh, I like the let's go at the end.
Come on now. Peter Schrager.
Come on now.
Sean Payton.
By the way, all these people talking about Stidham has no chance, watch that from Schrags. That gives you a picture into this that people may not realize. Excellent stuff.
Can we do the most interesting man of the week in like March as well? Just keep it going.
It could be like, the guy mowing somebody's lawn. Like, you never know. Which, by the way, a lot of times that guy is me. J-Mac, during that, you heard, you just never know. You heard a moment maybe during that where J-Mac yelled out Stiddy.
Yeah.
That's because you were teammates with Stidham in New England. What are your expectations for him on Sunday?
That's my guy. And you talked about Sean Payton believing in him. He is not a hard guy to believe in. Jarrett Stidham, when he got to the Patriots in 2019 as a fourth-round draft pick, he comes in and he's running the scout team. And he was a guy that would come over to us in the locker room on the defensive backfield, and he'd be talking trash. He'd be yelling at my brother on the field, I'm coming right at you, McCourty. Not afraid of that moment.
Him up too.
Yeah, probably not. But Dan, you can speak to this. When you're in practice and you're getting the defense ready, you've done it on both sides. You've been a starter, you've been a backup. Sure. It's a challenge, but it's also a ton of fun how you approach it. And that's how he did from year one to year two. I remember Belichick going to Jarrett Stidham and saying, hey, forget about the cards. When you go out there, you run the offense the way you see fit. You throw the ball and you read the defense. You throw the ball where you see it to go. So I think we've heard from his teammates all week long. They have a ton of confidence in this guy. And the reason they do, Jarrett Stidham has a ton of confidence in himself. They're not going to go out there and just run the football every play or try to. He's going to go out there and let it rip and play tough.
Can he take practice to the game? Yep. I think is going to be the biggest challenge because in practice, when you're going against starting defense, it's like light them up central.
No
if you throw two picks, no one cares, right? So can he still have that aggression with that? I would say this from a game plan perspective. One, will they they should move Jarrett Stidham as much as they moved Bo Nix. I think he moves well, throws on the run. I think there's advantages against New England's defense. Number two, double move these safeties. This is a defense that wants to play with a little bit of vision on the quarterback. You got to take your shots against this defense. 6 offensive linemen. There was times in that Houston game where they were able to put that 6th offensive lineman on the field and run it, and then his legs got to be a part of it. They have been a huge part of Bo Nix's game. Jarrett's got to be willing to do that, and I think that there's going to be opportunity. And so when you watch the New England defense, very, very good defense, yes, but there are things that give me confidence from a play call structure perspective that I go, Sean Payton will figure this out. He's going to give him chances to make the plays. Yeah. He's just got to go do that.
I talk to Payton a lot, and one of the things he can do is he can motivate you to run through a wall, but he could also build up your own self-esteem. When he took on Nathaniel Hackett and said what he said a couple of years ago in the offseason, everyone was like, that was out of hand. It wasn't done to attack Nathaniel Hackett. It was done to build up Russell Wilson and say, hey, that's not on you. Like, Russ, I trust you. We can do this. There are little motivational techniques that he has. This one, it's no shtick. He believes in Jarrett Stidham, and he thinks they can win an AFC championship game with him at the quarterback spot.
He did immediately come out, too, right when this news happened and said, I'm not worried. We have Jarrett Stidham. So he's figured out a way to infuse confidence. We'll see if it plays out on the field. Coming up, Eric Bieniemy, our attention to the head coaching carousel. Okay, 4 down, 6 to go when it comes to current head coach openings. We've seen the Titans, Giants, Dolphins, and Falcons lock in their new head coach. Still waiting on replacements in Baltimore, Buffalo, and Pittsburgh in the post-Mike Tomlin era. So Adam Schefter is back here with us with the latest. Shefty, let's start in Pittsburgh. What's going on there with their search?
Laura, one of the strong candidates that has a real chance in Pittsburgh is Mike McCarthy, the former Dallas Cowboys and Green Bay Packers head coach who's from Pittsburgh, who has a long history with that particular city, who would love to go back and coach there. It would be an atypical Steelers hire, but they need help at a lot of places, particularly quarterback, and McCarthy certainly could bring that to them. They're going through their process, but McCarthy definitely is square in the mix in Pittsburgh, and we'll see if the Steelers wind up trying to hire him. Meanwhile, in Tampa, they hired former Falcons offensive coordinator Zach Robinson as their new offensive coordinator. He worked with Baker Mayfield in Los Angeles. During Mayfield's brief stint with the Rams, he'll get the chance now to work with Baker again in Tampa. And speaking of reunions, Eric Bieniemy, the former Chiefs assistant coach, is going back to be the offensive coordinator for Kansas City. Chiefs felt like they needed to shake up the offense a little bit. They wanted to bring back Bieniemy. Bieniemy now will work with Patrick Mahomes as they try to jumpstart an offense that struggled some last year, and they're now turning to a familiar face in Eric Bieniemy, who returns to Kansas City, where some say maybe he shouldn't have left in the first place.
Interesting. He did some great things with the Bears. They averaged the second most yards before contact per rush this season with Bieniemy as the running backs coach. And let's dive in there a little bit. The Chiefs hoping to get back to that offense they saw under Bieniemy a few years ago. As for this season, it was their fewest points per game and yards per game with Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. It didn't look pretty, right? It was also their worst third down and sack percentage. Chiefs finished with their worst record since 2012. J-Mac, is Bieniemy the key to getting that Chiefs offense back on track?
When I first got the news, my initial reaction was we always talked about their offense this past season. We said, well, they need an introduction to some new concepts and some outside-the-box ideas that we haven't seen around there. Then the second part, I thought about me traveling on the weekend, and you come back and Dad's back in town and the discipline is back with the kids at home. For Eric Bieniemy, he comes back. The discipline in which he coaches with, the passion in which he coaches with, he is going to be reintroduced to this offense. There's probably going to be a little bit more accountability. Travis Kelce already said, I can't wait to see him in the building. One, that's excitement to get Bieniemy back. Two, Travis Kelce hasn't said a lot about his future. When he says something like that, getting your tight end and your future Hall of Famer back with the club, that's a big deal.
Hey, we can all agree, though, shout out to Mom for holding down the fort when you're gone.
No doubt about it.
Got to come back
Couldn't
in there.
happen without her.
Exactly. Let's go to Atlanta next, where Kevin Stefanski made his first big hire since landing the Falcons job, the head coaching job. Former Browns offensive coordinator Tommy Rees comes in as the OC. And let's dive in there. Rees hoping to revamp the Falcons offense. It struggled under Raheem Morris. Atlanta ranked in the bottom 10 in pass touchdown, third down conversion, and off-target rates. Browns weren't any better with Stefanski and Rees on the staff, with the worst passing touchdown rate over that span. There's a lot of reasons why, right, Dan? But do you like this connection, the Stefanski-Rees combo for that offense in Atlanta?
Don't like it. I love it. I love it for Atlanta. I think Kevin Stefanski's a very good coach and a very good offensive mind, and Tommy Rees is the next star offensive mind in the NFL from a coordinator's perspective. The way that he can infuse some of the traditional Stefanski-Shanahan scheme with a little bit of the new age, recently from college stuff, and get that perfect mix of run action, play action, shot, RPO, move the quarterback, ball distribution offense. I think it's perfect. We all know Atlanta is loaded with offensive talent and a very good offensive line. Have to figure out quarterback. I would fully expect Kirk Cousins to be a quarterback, at least strong option there. But this is a very good start for at least the offensive future in Atlanta.
Give the ball to Bijan Robinson, right? It works pretty well.
Go left.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's get into a little bit more about this weekend, okay? Back to Championship Sunday, where we build out a play sheet presented by DraftKings. The focus today on the Rams and Seahawks matchup. For that, we turn to Peter Schrager. All right, Peter, let's go. Let's start with Matthew Stafford. Over, under 1.5.